American multinational technology company Apple has announced details of a system to find child sexual abuse material on its U.S. customer devices. Now, before an image is stored onto iCloud photos, the technology will search for matches of already known material. If a match is found, a reviewer will then assess the report the user to law enforcement. However, there are privacy concerns that the technology could be used to scan phones for prohibited content or even political speech. Now, for more on this, we are joined by editor-at-large for MyBroadband, Vermeulen. An absolute pleasure, Jan, to be chatting to you this morning. A very good morning to you. There's always, a very fine line with balancing things like this. But let's first talk about the good that could come out of such an initiative by Apple.
Sure thing. With this announcement, Apple has made it quite clear that this kind of activity is not welcome in its ecosystem. And so that is ostensibly a very good thing. So those criminals who might have been doing this on their Apple devices, whether it's an iPhone or iPad, or I believe that this function is also going to be rolling out to Mac OS, Apple has made it clear, we do not want this in our ecosystem.
Now, Jan, just make me, or dumb it down for me. How would this system work?
Sure. So there is an organization called the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, and they provide what's called a hash. So for those out there who might not be familiar with a hash, they don't send the image itself of the child sexual abuse material. What they do is they take an electronic summary of that. So they calculate a unique code, a unique signature, a fingerprint, if you will, of that photo rather than sending the photo itself. And these fingerprints then are what the photos on your phone are going to be checked against. So the idea is that the scanner on your phone is going to be checking against these fingerprints, and if it finds enough material matching these fingerprints on your phone, it'll flag you for further investigation, and your account will be terminated.
So, essentially this brings to light then the fact that America, I know large parts of the world essentially, but America seem to have quite a big problem when it comes to child sexual abuse, especially when it comes to material that involves child sexual abuse.
Indeed, and it's not just the United States. This is a problem around the world that I've unfortunately had the misfortune to have to investigate as a result of a separate set of issues that impact our Internet Protocol address space here in South Africa. And so what ends up happening is you've got CSAM, child sexual abuse material, from all over the world being stored on what they call bulletproof networks. And, it doesn't matter where you are. You can be in the United States. You can be, in Siberia. You can access this stuff if you know where to find it. And so that's with all the good the Internet has done, this is one of the bad.
Could we see this crossing, borders and into other territories, especially seeing as iPhone are an American, or Apple rather, are an American company?
Yes, definitely. I would see this feature rolling out into any jurisdiction that allows it, which I think would be most. And so I would expect this function to not just impact United States users, but any Apple user.
Yeah, let's talk about that fingerprint that you referred to a little bit earlier on. Let's make it, something that the everyday human being might fall into, and that is of taking a picture perhaps of your child in a bath, or whether they might be dirty or whatever the case might be. But ultimately, taking a picture of your child naked, could that land you in hot water?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And for now, it doesn't look like it, because this particular technology, there's no mention of machine learning or anything like that to try and identify child sexual abuse material based on known signatures and then kind of extrapolating from that. So it is only looking for those signatures. So, of material that they know exists, know is out there. And so in that way, the system is quite limited, but also it's Apple's way to try and ensure that there are no false positives. Apple is claiming that there's like a 1 in a trillion chance for you to be falsely identified as someone who has child sexual abuse material on your phone.
Okay, I mean, that's at least reassuring to hear. But now, there are concerns that this could be used for surveillance and other bad, I suppose, business and bad ways to track people.
Yes, so that is the big blowback against this feature from the privacy advocates around the world, is that this is a step towards basically a kind of surveillance on your phone. And so some of the more extreme have said that basically all the encryption that Apple has built into its devices has now been circumvented. So why even bother? Which I don't think is entirely fair. But the point that these privacy advocates are making is that it's a very short step from CSAM to, say, trying to detect terrorism, which has happened, right? So we've seen systems like this be used specifically like that. And then from there, it's a very short step to any kind of other political dissidents, because one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist, and so it becomes you become an enforcer potentially for governments if you allow yourself to go down that road. And so while it is I think dangerous to try and apply slippery slope argumentation when it comes to child sexual abuse material, I think the privacy advocates make a good point when it comes to, say, oversight, to say who is going to watch the watchers here and make sure that this technology is not abused in the way that we've seen surveillance technology abused out of the United States. Never mind everywhere else where surveillance technology is abused, like we've seen happen with Israeli company NSO Group's Pegasus spyware.
And who is going to watch the watchers, Jan, in this instance? Who is going to keep, Apple in check, or what have Apple put into place to make sure that they will be able to ensure that the privacy of people is at least protected?
Right. So Apple have done a couple of things. The one thing is, right in the beginning, you mentioned that they are not scanning iCloud. So they are not scanning the stuff that you have encrypted and uploaded to their cloud service. That's one of the features that they promise with iCloud, is that it's encrypted, and even Apple can't really look at that stuff. I mean, they can, but they don't. And so what they instead do is they scan the photos and videos on your phone before they are uploaded. That's the first thing. Once that stuff has been encrypted and uploaded to the cloud, Apple doesn't touch it. The second thing is that Apple has said that they take stuff from a trusted third party, the NCMEC, that National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They take those hashes, those fingerprints, and scan against those and nothing else. And so one hopes that, if this technology ends up getting used for something else, that there'll be some kind of notification. But right now, there's no independent third party verifying this. We just basically have to take Apple's word. And that, I think, is what the privacy advocates are concerned about, is that this is something where we need more than Apple's word. Even though it's a strong word, Apple has been a staunch ally of privacy and encryption on its devices. It's fought against the American government's attempts to build backdoors into iOS to allow them to decrypt the phones more easily. And so they fought their own government to try and make sure that their encryption systems aren't weakened. And so Apple's word when it comes to this thing is still strong. But privacy advocates make a good point and say that, we need some other kind of civil society oversight, some kind of oversight over this technology to make sure it isn't abused. I
mean, there's also, threats from just the public at large. We've got Matthew Green, who's the cryptography researcher at the Johns Hopkins University, saying that this could essentially be used as a way to frame people by sending images that could trigger the system.
Right.
Is that possible?
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. It all depends on how the system works. And right now, I think everybody is kind of guessing at it. But, ostensibly, based on the way Apple describes the system being worked, yes. If you send someone messages, whether it's an iMessage or WhatsApp or anywhere, that causes that message to be downloaded to your phone's gallery, which is where the scanner will be looking, then yes, this is a potential way to exploit the system or to circumvent or abuse the system to try and, as he says, frame someone. And so, yeah, it's an interesting one. Apple will perhaps have to build mechanisms into the system for you to flag messages and go, I received this against my will. It's a tricky one. What Apple has said they do there is they don't flag your account after one instance, right? They look for a volume of content. And so, by that token, one would hope that if someone is being flooded with this kind of abusive material, that they would ban the numbers trying to send them this stuff as they come in, and then wouldn't trigger that threshold. But, who knows? In 2 years' time, maybe the threshold gets lowered to 1. And then, you've got this one image somewhere on your phone that you missed, and you get flagged. So, yeah, that is a good example of a real simple concern that Apple does have to look at. And make methods of recourse available. Apple says that they've got an appeals process, but obviously it's untested. We just have their word at this moment.
Yeah, and fascinating stuff. Thank you so much for your time this morning. It's an absolute pleasure. This is the editor-at-large for MyBroadband, Vermeulen, joining us via video link.